Alright, welcome to the channel. So, the goal of this channel, the goal is really just to learn, to really delve into, developing athleticism with hypermobility, trying to figure out the strength and conditioning program for hypermobile and neurodivergent athletes, and how that's different from strength and conditioning for people with normal mobility and who are neurotypical. So some examples of future videos I'm going to release, we're going to be talking about my own experiences with not being diagnosed with hypermobility as a kid, and not knowing I was neurodivergent until my 20s essentially, and how typical coaching cues don't work for neurodivergent and hypermobile children, and how that results in them basically being labeled as unathletic, when in reality it's just that we learn in a different way. And that's something I've experienced myself, where it's I was never really into sports until I started from just lifting, and then from lifting gradually got into more different types of activities, because lifting is you have direct instructions for how you're supposed to move, and versus if a coach tells you in a sport oh, just throw the ball, or they're oh, just look at the ball, stuff like that. It's no, we gotta know the exact kind of way to move your body. But then the thing is, once I feel neurodivergent athletes, once you actually know how to do the movement, then it's I don't think it's a straight up disadvantage. I think there are pros and cons to it, because they're definitely having a very analytical mind can definitely be a bonus, and having that sort of hyper focus and work ethic can definitely be a strong point for sports. So yeah, I'm gonna be posting a lot of these car talk type videos, and kind of going into probably more proprioception training, stuff like that, for hypermobility, because we know hypermobility, it's basically your brain is confused about where your body is in space, because the joints go into ranges of motion that they aren't supposed to go to. So it's if you're hypermobile, on one hand it's your brain, you're just clumsy, it's you don't know, you just seem uncoordinated. But on the other hand, it's I feel if you really tap into that proprioception, learn how to fire your muscles perfectly to make up for the lack of passive stability from ligaments, it's I feel it could be an advantage in certain situations, or at least not detrimental, if we figure out a way to perfectly basically program the hypermobile neurodivergent mind. So that's what we're going to be trying to figure out in this channel, because I've been into lifting, bodybuilding, stuff like that for quite a few years, and I've always felt something is different or weird. And yeah, for example, bodybuilding has been all about the stretch recently, talking about you gotta go all the way at the bottom, you gotta pause in the stretch position. The stretch position is most important for muscle growth, doing an incline curl instead of a standing curl, and trying to do dumbbell bench going very deep instead of a normal barbell bench press to get more chest stretch. So, and that's an example where conventional wisdom is not good for people with hypermobility, because if you're hypermobile and you go all the way into that stretch position, you will end up just stretching out the ligaments, I feel, instead of getting more tension on the muscle. So it's you got to basically pause slightly before you hit that max range. So yeah, it's going to be stuff like that. And I'll also be posting not only car talks, but from the car talks, that will be the raw sort of content, unfiltered content generation. And then we're also going to do some PowerPoint presentations, shit like that, And on the Instagram, I'm gonna be posting more like short form content, like training snippets, stuff like that. Because the thing is, like, I feel like, I don't know, the goal with this channel is for this to be essentially the cheat sheet, the study guide for anyone in the future like me who is hypermobile and has a little bit of autism, so, and is into bodybuilding and lifting and shit, so you don't have to figure this out on your own. So hopefully the shit I've figured out is somewhat useful. Because honestly, even like, because I just realized this shit like 3 weeks ago, and I feel like I've already benefited hugely from knowing, from just like implementing basic shit. Like I don't stretch now before I work out. Like, instead of do a bunch of dynamic stretching and then like ready to stretch, like fucking Cossack squats, all kinds of stretching before I work out. Not like, I'm not talking about passive holds, because obviously that's bad even if you're not hypermobile. Like dynamic stretching, like leg kicks, stuff like that. Like, I don't even do that anymore. Now when I warm up, I do like bear crawls, I'll do like crab walks, different types of crawling, different types of single leg balance exercises. Because the thing is, like, it's like I already, since I'm hypermobile, I already have like way more mobility than I need. What I really need to warm up isn't the mobility. I'm never gonna pull a muscle. What I'm more worried about is priming the nervous system, my proprioception, to actually like, yeah, to actually like know where my body is in space. And also I feel like the arch of the foot is a huge aspect, and I'm probably gonna make a whole video about the foot at some point in the future as well. So yeah, this video is very rough, but I'm just gonna upload it because like I feel like you gotta start somewhere, right? In the future, this video will probably be updated into a more edited, cleaner version, because this will be just basically a channel overview.